everyone, I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today I'm going to talk to y'all about the first issue of Cloud Orchid magazine. So I have done a video previously on my channel. You can watch it here. And that video is about the transition from us going from Cloud Orchid magazine to becoming Cloud Orchid Publishing. So you can watch all of the backstory with that, as well as if y'all want to go even further back, this particular video where I talk about my modeling career and how Brian and I met and became friends and created Cloud Orchid magazine and Cloud Orchid Publishing. So these videos will give you all the crunchy backstory, but today we are going to particularly focus on issue 1 of Cloud Orchid magazine. Now, the reason why I want to do this video in particular, focusing on the first issue of Cloud Orchid magazine, is that I feel like this really set the foundation for my creative projects going forward, putting together this magazine with Brian. When we created this magazine, as I talk about in the other videos that I mentioned, we had been submitting to other fashion magazines prior to creating this. So we already understood the basics of what a fashion magazine should be, what goes into it, all of that. And we basically kind of looked at a lot of the magazines that were out there and we were like, you know, I think we could do this. And not only that, I think we could do it better. And I've got to say, 10 years later, I definitely think in a lot of ways we did it better. So issue 1 came out January of 2013. And on the cover is Ophelia Darkley from one of the modeling events that I put together. So back during the final years of my modeling career, I was putting together these photography events where photographers and models would pay to be a part of the event. And then I would also pay specific models, photographers, makeup artists, designers, etc. to be the backbone of the event, to be the draw of the event for why people wanted to pay to be a part of the event, and put together these fantastical editorial fashion concepts for people to come together and be able to create and have these photos together. And Brian and I would basically take the cream of the crop of them and utilize them for the first issue of our magazine, submitting them to other magazines, and then we also repeated this in other issues going forward. But this one in particular was one of the events that I put together myself, and funny enough, I actually was the one who designed this headdress. I built it myself, and the dress is by one of my favorite indie designers, Silver Sark. You can take a look here at her fabulous stuff. I own a big chunk of her early works. She is always doing amazing stuff. Please do support her and check her out. Now, it is especially special about the first issue of the magazine is this epic editorial that we put together for this magazine. So in the past, we would create editorials, whether for a specific magazine, perhaps they had a specific theme going on, or just that particular magazine in general, what they typically publish, whatever have you. We would create the editorials and then we would figure out where we should put them. Whereas when we first decided we wanted to build Cloud Orchid magazine, we decided, okay, we need a really big editorial that's going to be really splashy flashy and really amazing to get people hooked on this magazine. And this editorial is it. It was a big feature for the fashion designer, Rachel Frank Designs, and we are still friends with her today. She is an amazing designer. She is now also an amazing photographer. She just does such amazing creative work, and please do check out her stuff here. You will not be disappointed. All of everything that went into putting together this editorial, Brian and I worked together to put out the casting calls for the models that we wanted to use for this editorial. We went and we selected which models we were going to end up using for it, doing all the coordinating and messaging and scheduling to figure out a day where we could have all of these people all together on a single day to work together. And let me tell y'all, that is such a huge challenge, having to coordinate that many people, and especially in the modeling industry. Models are especially known for being difficult to wrangle, and unfortunately it is a well-known fact that a lot of newer models will oftentimes flake on gigs and just not show up for whatever reason. We were very lucky that everyone was super professional and everyone showed up, everyone was on time, and everyone looked so beautiful and so amazing. So Rachel Frank provided all of the designs. So she provided all of the dresses, all of the amazing outfits and the clothing, and she also provided some really cool headdresses. I also provided headdresses that I personally built myself, so we had a combination of those two things going on. The male models, for the most part, just wore clothing that we asked them to bring, mainly suits, and this is a common practice in the fashion industry, is that a lot of times male models are seen just kind of as props rather than models. They're there to help balance out the image and also giving that model someone to interact with, because there are certain poses that just look better when you have someone else in the frame with them. And in particular, we also spent a day where we went out and we scouted all these different locations around the Loop in downtown Chicago that we thought would be really cool backdrops for this particular photo shoot. This was also a huge challenge because both Brian and I were well versed in knowing that doing an outdoor shoot, and especially doing an outdoor shoot somewhere as populated and busy and touristy as the Loop in downtown Chicago, was going to be very tricky. So we knew we were going to have looky-loos. We knew that there were going to be complications. But even with all that, the day went so smoothly. I was so ready the whole day for people to try and stop us, people to try and jump in the frame, people harassing the models, but we got so lucky and none of that happened, and the shoot went really smoothly. The only craziness that we had that was honestly not our problem, and we didn't have to do anything about it, it was just very funny. It was also very dangerous. Like, mind you, it's funny after the fact. It was not funny during it, but there were people who were literally stopping their car on Lakeshore Drive to watch us doing the photo shoot. And for any of y'all that have been to Chicago, you know that you cannot stop on Lakeshore Drive. That is not a thing one does. So it was very dangerous that people were doing that, and they were very clearly tourists doing that. So we were shouting at them, you have to drive, you have to drive, you cannot stop on Lakeshore Drive. So other than that craziness, the day went so smoothly. The models did so beautifully. They were so professional. And I'm just so happy that even back then, I was already thinking 3 steps ahead, getting all of this behind the scenes footage for all of this photo shoot so that we could present that with the magazine to be able to market and to be able to hype up the magazine, to be able to show people, hey, we did this cool thing. You want to pick up an issue of this magazine? It has this amazing editorial in it. And that footage to this day, I'm still using it here in this video. That's a big thing too, is that it's amazing to me just how things that I have done as long ago as 10 years ago are still having such a big impact on my work today, are still useful for me as a creator today, and just how far I've come on this journey as a creative. I am still so incredibly proud of this editorial, that I did all the makeup for it, that I did all of the creative directing and designing for helping to put together the headdresses with the different designs, and also taking direction from Rachel Frank on how she wanted things to be presented. Brian did an incredible job of shooting this. Like, he absolutely was getting all the angles. Like, his poor knees were probably shot by the end of the day with just how hard he worked with making sure that he got all the perfect shots. And just being a part of that experience and just having that first time of just completely building this magazine together, and the two of us being like, yeah, we did this. And not only that, this is a substantial magazine, y'all. Like, it has a lot of pages in it. Like, this isn't just a flimsy magazine. There is a lot of substance. And when I say that we did it better, one of the big reasons for that is because of this. Because even back then, I was writing at a professional capacity, and I wrote all of the articles for the editorials. So we took it a step further than most fashion magazines in that I would send out interview questions to the designers, the photographers, the models, everybody that was involved in the editorial pieces that would be sent to us, such as this piece. Brian and I didn't shoot this editorial. This was sent to us to be in the first issue of the magazine. So I would take these questions, and most fashion magazines would just have question, answer, and just have it just as is, maybe clean up a little bit of spelling and grammar. And that was kind of it. Whereas I was like, no, that's just, nobody wants to read that. It's so boring to read that kind of back and forth exchange. I would then take it and craft it into an actual article. And that's what really set this magazine apart, is that we were doing actual editorial level articles with the photo editorials in this magazine. And not only that, that we included them for as many of the editorials that we could. Unfortunately, it wasn't like we could force people to answer the questions, and there were plenty of people that just would never send us back the interview questions for me to be able to make anything of it. In some cases, some people, the answers that they sent back were just so poorly written, or they just didn't bother to answer the vast majority of the questions, that there just wasn't enough material to be able to use for a proper article, so we would just scrap them all together. Building this magazine with Brian, I feel, was the first steps to me learning not just about writing professionally, but also the publishing industry, and most importantly, the self-publishing industry. This magazine was my very first steps into self-publishing. And going through this and learning how to overcome these challenges, learning what all goes into making a magazine is the same as what makes a book a book. And I am lucky that Brian did the heavy lifting with layout design. I, to this day, am still not good at layout design, and that's why in the past Brian handled it, and now we have a professional layout artist who handles it for us. Seeing him, like, I would actually sit sometimes and hang out with him and watch him do all the layout design. So I academically understand how it works. I just, if you sat me down in front of it, it would probably take me about 10 times longer to do it, and it would not be at the professional quality because I don't quite know what I'm doing. It would take me a long time to get into practice with that. And with all the 400 other things I do in my life, that's just not another thing that I need to do if I can help it. But putting together this magazine was definitely the first step on this road to self-publishing my novels, to not only that, learning how to creatively put together a book with the poetry collections and the art books, and also illustrated novels like Geisha Hands that have complex layout design, that even though I myself don't know the mechanics of doing the layout design, I can describe what I want where and how I want it to look, and then they can fiddle with the program to make that come to fruition. And all of that just put me light years ahead of my peers, and I just have Brian and the fashion industry to thank for that, that I have been on this very odd journey that got me here today, going from being a professional model to now being a professional author, and that this is a linear path going on between these two professions is nothing short of amazing. But that so much that I've learned along this journey is 100% applicable to what I do today and what I'm going to be working on in the near future and even the far future. So a big part of why I wanted to talk about this today is that never underestimate your skills that you have, that you've picked up, that you've grown outside of the writing and publishing industry. You never know how those other skills or those other life experiences are going to impact your work as an author and going to impact your ability to get published traditionally, or impact how well you're going to be able to work as a self-published author, or even navigating both worlds at the same time. So I hope y'all found this video helpful. If you did, please be sure to give me a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.